And now it is my pleasure to introduce a longtime family friend, and we are excited to have her here with us today, Nancy Pelosi. Okay? That wasn't the introduction. Nancy is the Democrat leader, I don't even need to say this, of the U.S. House of Representatives. From 2007 to 2011, she served as Speaker of the House, the first woman in U.S. history to do that. For 28 years, Leader Pelosi has represented San Francisco's 12th district. If you're looking for proof, some San Francisco love, if you're looking for proof of how service unites, you need to look no further. A bush warmly welcoming Nancy Pelosi. Please welcome my friend, a great leader, Nancy Pelosi.
Good afternoon, everyone. They told me to stand behind there, but I didn't want to be that far away from all of you. Thank you, Neil Bush. Thank you for your very kind introduction, for your tireless leadership of Points of Light. Congratulations to you and to the Bush family for 25 years of Points of Light shining hope around the world. I'm honored to be included in this conversation today, speaking about sparking a global service movement. Congratulations to the Point of Light honorees and to the community leaders who made such a wonderful presentation of light and hope and of a global movement. And I just thought I would take my time to tell you what we have learned from some of the people that we have set out to help. Every Wednesday, the women of the Capitol, of the House of Representatives, stand on the steps of the Capitol wearing red to acknowledge the Nigerian girls who were kidnapped by the Boko Haram. We stand there with signs that say, "Bring back our girls." A few of the girls escaped, and they joined us on the steps. And when they came, they implored us to remember the girls. And so we stand there remembering them, but not only them, remembering millions of other women and girls they represent, all those around the world facing violence and oppression, because they are all ours, all of them. We stand on the steps of the Capitol. We recognize how blessed we are to be Americans. In my role as a senior congressional leader, I've traveled to the far corners of the world, as so many of you have. I've seen abject poverty on every continent, from the hundreds of thousands of refugees in the camps in Darfur to the poverty of spirit in North Korea. When we travel, we wonder, how did God decide? How did God decide where each of us would be born? In our country, we have been blessed with security and opportunity, and therefore responsibility. Others face a very different reality. But wherever we go, what we see that even the severest poverty and the darkest experiences cannot obscure our common humanity. Beneath the differences of birth and circumstance is the same fundamental spark of divinity. We know that we are all God's children, and all of us have basic rights as human beings. This recognition is part of our faith, and it is written into the very foundation of our country. You know it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what we believe, and we have a responsibility to act upon those beliefs. That's why so many of us are gathered here today. I want to share another story, apart from the girls on the step, which recognizes the plight and the courage of women and girls. On one of my Mother's Day trips, I usually take a Mother's Day trip to visit our troops. One of my Mother's Day trips to Afghanistan, I met with women in a small village called Kawat in Zabul province, 250 miles away from Kabul. So these are women in the hinterlands of Afghanistan. These poorest of poor women that we met with, they wanted us to come. They didn't want any men in the meeting. They wanted just women talking to women. And they told us their story. Now, in this room, say about 25 people, more of them than us, women, there were women members of Congress on the trip. They told us about how long it takes them to walk to a healthcare clinic, even expecting a child. They told us about the challenges they face in educating them. They told us about all of their challenges. And these women, the highest educated one among them would have been the midwife of the village. Some of them were the poorest of the poor. They had been beggars, and now they had jobs separating raisins from twigs. And these women were possessed of such wisdom within all of their poverty. They said, you want us to send our girls to school. You want us to send our girls to the health clinic. But we cannot let our daughters leave the house because it's an issue of security. And this is my point. And these poorest of poor women then said, there can be no security really unless there is an end of corruption in our country. Imagine the wisdom of those women. I pass that on to President Karzai. The bravery, the selflessness, the strength of those women in their fight for security and the opportunity of their children to succeed as an inspiration to all of us. Our global fight for human rights is founded on those values, a call to courage and compassion abroad and at home. Now I want to share a story closer to home, which recognizes the courage and compassion of volunteers from my city of San Francisco when it was hit very hard by the AIDS crisis. This savage, terrifying disease, so new and mysterious to all of us, claimed thousands of lives, a tragedy compounded by the fact that many of those facing HIV/AIDS already suffered from society's ostracism. Into the denial, isolation, and suffering, into the fear of contagion, stepped the pioneers of the Shanti Project. Shanti is a Sanskrit word which means inner peace. Shanti provided counseling, house cleaning, grocery shopping, cooking, transportation, and childcare for people with AIDS, helping to meet the most personal and emotional needs of those struggling with the disease, helping to provide inner peace. Their community-based efforts transformed the lives of people, of the lives they served, and opened the hearts of the nation to those with HIV. I believe that the fight against the scourge of HIV and AIDS and the discrimination that went with it were broken down. It broke down barriers in some people's hearts and in the communities. And I believe that fight against HIV and AIDS accelerated the progress of LGBT rights in our country, and hopefully it will across the world. San Francisco's experience taught us that our local crisis required a global response. That understanding fueled our effort to mobilize the world against HIV, an effort embodied in the PEPFAR commitment to achieve an AIDS-free generation launched by President George W. Bush, which has brought so much healing and so much hope. I say hope because I visited as the appropriator and leader of the Congress at the time. We worked with President Bush to make the program, the initiative, as large as possible, and funding it was a key to the side. And when I visited many of the clinics in Africa where PEPFAR was being administered, you could see the hope, because many of these people, they told me their stories. They didn't ever go to be tested. They never went to a clinic because they had no hope. What could you do about it? Until PEPFAR gave them a chance for not quite a cure, but sustaining life. And that was a major, major achievement on the continent of Africa and well beyond. We learned the value then of innovative partnerships to make progress against suffering and disease, partnerships like the Pink Ribbon, Red Ribbon Initiative to link cervical cancer prevention with HIV testing and treatment in Africa. It was viewed that many of these women who were being, if they were tested for cervical cancer, you could detect if they were HIV positive. This collaboration is a testament to the deep commitment of First Lady Laura Bush, as well as President George W. Bush. Pink ribbon, red ribbon. Again and again, we see the importance and the possibility of coming together in collaboration to change lives, advance human rights, and transform our world as we reach out to alleviate poverty and eradicate disease. And recognizing the dignity and worth of every person is also a security issue, because the fury of despair that you see in these places is fertile territory for violence and abuse. What gives us hope? Monumental tasks lie ahead, which challenge the conscience of the world. Where there is despair, we must find hope. When people ask, where is hope? I always say it's where it's always been, sitting comfortably between faith and charity. Faith in God, faith in the future, faith in the charity of others gives us hope. Today, we find reason to hope all around us as we celebrate the 25th anniversary of Points of Light and carry forward President George Herbert Walker Bush's outstanding legacy of volunteerism and service. It is this hope, again, that knows no political party. Hope that drives President Bush's thousand small figure now, billion points of light. President Obama's United We Serve initiative, and the men and women working through the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act, and thousands that spring from thousands of faith-based organizations, from community leaders and businesses across the country. And of course, today, we recognize the special leadership of UPS and it's David Abney. Thank you, David, for the leadership. The workplace volunteerism, so important. It is faith, hope, and charity that fuels the millions who give time to make a difference across America and across the world. Last month, we witnessed an historic event as Pope Francis addressed a joint meeting of Congress in the Capitol. He called on all of us to embrace the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. He went on to say, let us treat others with the same passion and compassion with which we want to be treated, he said. Let us seek for others the same possibilities which we seek for ourselves. Let us help others to grow as we would like to be helped ourselves. In many ways, he was talking about immigrants, whether to our own country or refugees abroad, but speaking about all of God's children. So Pope Francis was named for chose the name of Francis, the name for St. Francis of Assisi, who is the patron saint of my city of San Francisco. And the song of St. Francis is the anthem of our city. Make me an instrument of thy peace. He calls for us, and where it goes on to say, where there is despair, may we bring hope. Where there's darkness, may we bring light. You are the points of light. You are the constellation of hope that shines on humanity. It is a privilege to stand here today before so many of you and so many thousands and indeed millions who have devoted their lives to answering that call to help and to serve. Thank you for the bravery, love, healing, and hope you bring to the lives of millions and millions around the world. We leave here today with the confidence to advance human rights, champion human dignity, and be instruments of God's peace and points of light. That is you. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you for the honor to be with you.